everyone says you should never meet your heroes.
They're probably correct. Let's face it.
Have you met your heroes?
Yes and no.
Do you want to name them? You don't have to if you don't want to.
Guitar wise,
yeah.
I suppose my favourite players, I've actually met some of them, yeah. Pete Townsend I met briefly, he was alright. Wilko Johnson, who was a great hero of mine, really got me first playing. After the initial I can't play the guitar, I saw Dr. Feelgood on the telly and thought that's just the greatest thing I'd ever seen, and it's still not far off it now. And I wanted to play like Wilko Johnson, and that kind of got me going. And I met him in the Price days, actually. We supported him in the 80s. And the Ruts D.C. have played with him. And I can't say he's a mate, but I've met him quite a lot.
An acquaintance.
And he's an acquaintance. And he's a great character, very eccentric. Southend legend, blues legend. So he was good to meet. And he's always got a great reputation. Actually, some people have said to me he can be quite difficult, but he's never been anything other than nice with me.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
So that's good. I met Mick Green from the Pirates, who again was another great hero. I only met him briefly, but he was a much more abrasive character. I left him to it.
Right.
He's probably fed up with people like me going, "Hello, I like your guitar playing," or something like that. Danny Custo from Tom Robinson's band, I loved his playing. I met him briefly. He was nice. I've never met the real big guys. I'd like to meet Keith Richards. Who wouldn't like to meet Keith Richards? Everyone on earth would like to meet Keith Richards. I've never met him. I'd love to meet him. I met Roger Daltrey. He was okay. You meet some people. I've never been really in those circles, I suppose. I mean, the Price played with bands at the time, again, who went on to be quite successful. We played with Transvision Vamp, which was quite interesting. We played with Carter, people like that. They were all kind of friendly.
Tell us a little bit about the Price, because that was sort of your youth.
It was, I suppose, a slightly older version of youth, but yeah. So the Price were in the 80s and in the early 90s. They lasted for about 7 or 8 years, I think, in one form or another. There were two main lineups, and funny enough, this sounds like a dreadful promotional moment. We managed to get a best of CD out this year called No Justice.
And where can we get that?
Cadiz Music.
Cadiz Music. If you want to check out the Price. Is there a picture of you with hair?
There's far too many pictures of me with hair, and some of it's my own.
Fantastic, well done.
And there's another appalling moment here. I'd also say the Price are playing at the 100 Club in London's glittering West End on Saturday, December the 17th, supporting Johnny Moped, punk legend Johnny Moped.
There you go. So we're constantly trying to hit you with gigs, places to go. Yeah. So if you're watching these videos, go and check out Leigh. Now, while we're on that subject, Ruts D.C. Where can we see them? Now, I thoroughly recommend this for a night out.
Ruts D.C. have just done a new album called Counterculture, with a question mark on the end. And that's going to be out. It's going to be officially out in November, though. We might have some CDs out before then. 11 tracks. We're really pleased with it. We went to the studio with about 2 2.5 songs and came out with 11, which was quite an interesting process.
Yeah.
That's going to be out on So Sue Me Records, which is our own label. We're playing 9 shows in Germany next month. I think we start on the 20th in Bremen, and then we've got a UK tour. It starts in Exeter on November 18th and finishes in Islington, the Academy, on December the 3rd.
Oh, good venue.
Good venue.
Yes.
So we've got, again, rutsdc.com if you'd like to check us out. We're on the internets. We're looking forward to playing. As I say, we played a good show last week. We did the first Ruts album last week, which we don't do very often. We were asked to do it for a festival.
Cool. Right.
So we did the Crack, which it's funny, I sat going back to practicing, sat on the end of my bed playing along with that record for so long when I was about kind of 18, 19. And now, 40 years later, I'm still sitting on the end of my bed playing along with the same record. But it's a great thing to go out and play, and people love it, and we love it.
So what we do is we get our technical support, Leon, to put the poster up at the end so you guys can check all this out.
Oh, great.
Get down there. Right, so a few more questions before we go. Right.
Just warming up now.
Just warming up. We're getting to go. We might even make this a two-parter, Leon. We might even make a two-parter. So, the 2000 Red M&M story.
Oh, goodness.
The Riders.
Out to do with me, of course. The M&M story is a famous one. Van Halen, I think, wasn't it? It was supposed to have done a thing where in there. So a rider, for people who aren't familiar with the term, is a document, or whatever you want to call it, that a band will put to the promoter for what they would like in their dressing room. It's important to say what they would like rather than what they would get.
Okay, don't always get it.
What they would like, and of course, the bigger you are as a band, the more it is thought, the more extravagant these things can be. And there's a infamous story that Van Halen asked for a bowl of M&Ms, which I think are like Smarties, aren't they?
That sort of
chocolates.
Thing,
But all Was it the brown ones or the red ones?
I heard it was
out?
2000 red M&Ms,
Yeah.
but I don't know how true.
Yeah, some of them said it had to be taken out. There's another story that they could only have those colour ones.
Right.
And it's a great rock and roll tale, isn't it? Well, somebody said to me once, well, you know what that's for? I was like, well, no, it just sounds like they're idiots, really.
Right.
And it was like, well, no, it's to check people read the rider.
Ah, so it's a serious side to this.
There's a serious side to this.
Yeah, okay.
Now,
all right.
and this is this thing where people were asking for things in dressing room and got, instead they got like, a broom cover to change in. So they started to do this thing where they would say, oh, and the last thing would say something bizarre. And somebody told me Paul Young, of all people, had, it would say like, some beers, some water, cheese sandwiches, whatever it would say. And at the bottom it would say, a donut.
Just to make sure they've read it.
And then the last one was a prostitute.
Apparently,
I don't know how true this is.
Okay.
But the idea was, had you read that far? Oh, could we just check if the donut's here? The donut? Oh, didn't you read the rider? And that, in some cases, you could theoretically break the contract at that point if it's in the contract for the gig.
So it's not as yeah. So everyone thinks this is a bit of a laugh, but it's actually
or a bit kind of prima donna-y and things like that.
Yeah,
but
it's
there is
actually
a serious side. Yes.
Oh, right.
So you could put something at the end. I don't know. You want some shoe polish or something like that, and see if people. Where's the shoe polish?
So my next question is, what do you have on your rider? What do the band? Let's.
Ruts D.C. rider.
Well, I wasn't going to get you to name names, but now you have.
The Ruts D.C. rider is worryingly boring. Everyone thinks it's going to be donuts and prostitutes. Actually, it's a few beers, some bottles of water, bottle of wine, whatever, and some sandwiches and bits and pieces. Nothing too dramatic.
Nothing too dramatic.
Oh, chocolate. We have chocolate sometimes. That's the kind of crazy guys we are.
I thought you couldn't have chocolate if you were singing.
Well, I didn't say sex habit. Well,
yeah. Beer and chocolate's a strange combination.
Joking aside, ours is, fairly. I mean, there are some great stories. The Buzzcocks famously has no moe, no show. Is the saying. Right. They don't get a bottle of champagne, they don't do the show. They won't mind me saying that, I'm sure. That is a claim. I've heard that so many times, no moe, no show. But that's a great line. And as we all know, as you go up the evolutionary scale, you look at backstage footage of the Stones or something, and it's a city. It's a completely different thing. Yeah. Incidentally, as an aside, for a laugh or a great bit of entertainment, look up Iggy and the Stooges rider. It'll be on the internet. Whoever wrote it is a comic genius. Halfway through, he pitches an idea for a reality TV show.
On the rider?
Yeah. It's absolutely brilliant. It's all this stuff. It starts off with what amplifiers they want, all this kind of thing. They've got this written on the back. It starts off fairly simple. Then it's like monitors, turn them up. When you've turned them up again. When you've turned them up again, turn them up some more. Just turn them up. Iggy will be shouting, turn them up if you don't put it. It's written like that. It goes in, starts really sensible and gradually gets madder and madder. So look that one up. Iggy and the Stooges rider is a classic. Whether they got any of it ever is another matter.
Who knows?
But there's actually nothing mad on it particularly. There's like bottles of beer and bottles of water, which is what we all have.
What was it? Worst gig you've ever played? Are you willing to name it?
Oh gosh, in terms of how badly I played, or just
life?
how
No, I'm thinking more of you've turned up and it's a complete. I'm thinking a bit like in the Blues Brothers when they play. That's
an interesting. All right, give me
the country club.
There's been a few over the years. Funny enough, you mentioned the Blues Brothers. In a previous life, I played in a Blues Brothers theatre show called the Chicago Blues Brothers, which is what you think it is. There was a couple of lads at the front, and we were a band, and we'd play behind them, and we did theatre stuff and things like that. But we sometimes did these shows that were. You'll do sometimes just say the two lads and a guitar and a saxophone and some backing tracks or something like that if a place couldn't really afford that. And we did one once. I remember it was one of those, everything that could go wrong did go wrong. Lights went out, all this kind of thing. It was a corporate event and the people were they weren't interested. It was horrible. And you just felt it was just like that. What are these idiots doing, making all that noise in the corner? We're trying to, drink and pull secretaries, and it was like, you really knew you weren't wanted.
Right.
And I remember just thinking, this is horrific. I was standing there thinking, this is horrific. And it was just when I started playing in the Ruts. And then I think it was the next night or the night after I played the Forum. We supported the Alabama 3 at the Forum, and it was
another good band,
and it was almost like the best gig ever and the worst gig ever in about 48 hours. But that one I remember being particularly hostile, not in the sense of fights or people throwing stuff, but just that awful feeling when you're standing there thinking, they really don't want us here. You feel the whole room is like, oh God, what are they doing? We've got an hour of this, have we? You know, that kind of thing. So, but I mean, there's also been gigs. I mean, there was a couple of incidents in the Price days. Unfortunately, somebody got stabbed at one of our gigs.
All right.
Which doesn't.
Someone got killed at one of the Rolling Stones gigs.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I mean, but there was a fight and someone got stabbed at it. I mean, you know, there were problems like that, which, you know, just horrific. And there's no glamour whatsoever in that. I know people try to glorify the violence and that, which I always hated it.
No, violence is never good.
Punk gigs or any gigs, you know, it's horrific, and that's not.
I think as though we fans of punk rock, like the anarchic lifestyle, if I've said that right.
Crazy guys we are.
We're still a bit pink and fluffy. We don't really want anyone to get hurt. We just want to stick it to the man, really, don't we? And get through life and make a noise.
And yeah, I mean, I know having been old enough to be at some of not the very early punk shows, but I did see the Clash and all the bands that you're supposed to have seen. Yeah, that sometimes the atmosphere was, you know, quite tough. And but then again, you can get that at a heavy rock gig. You can get that at a folk club. You know, why not?
Yeah.
If the wrong people are in there, you know, and the atmosphere, there is that excitement or whatever, it can turn, unfortunately. I remember. As an aside, I used to go to gigs at Brunel all the time when I was at school, particularly. I saw the Motors there. They were a great band, Airport and Dancing the Nightway, fantastic. And they did weirdly, it was a song called You Beat the Hell Out of Me. And we were watching, and then suddenly there was this kind of down, it looked like people were dancing, their sort of heads all moving. But it wasn't, it was this big fight broke out. I'd never really seen it before. I was about 16 or 17. Oh, it was dark, and I think the band stopped and said, oh, you know, and when you see that, that's really awful. When you see it for the first time, it's sort of horrible, you know. And as I say, I was quite young, and that was like years later. I can sit here and feel a bit edgy with it. You know, it's not.
No, it's never.
It's like football violence, all this sort of stuff. As I say, these people glorify it, but it's just horrific.
No, it's never good fun. I can remember on a New Year's Eve, I was a roadie for a band, and they were just session musicians. And we turned up to this hotel in Reading, of all places, and I can't remember how much it was to get in. I want to say it was like 50 quid to get in for the night, but you got all your drink as well. I'm going back in the 90s, early 90s, so 50 quid was probably a few quid then. And you know, I was carrying in the amplifiers and stuff, and I think I had a bright orange mohawk, had hair down the middle then, and you know, and I'm carrying this stuff in, and one of the bouncers comes up and he says, "You're not coming in tonight." And I said, "Well, if I turn around and go, you haven't got a band, because I'm the one shifting all the equipment and stuff." And he goes, "Right, you're not drinking tonight. You're not allowed to do it." And I said, "Well, that's fine, because that's why I'm here. I'm the driver." Yeah, and carrying stuff.
Yeah. Well done, mate.
Yeah. So, all right, fair enough. I won't drink, even though I'm not going to. Well, by midnight, all these people that were deemed to be sort of fairly posh were just smashing the hell out of each other, and it was like a film. I was standing there drinking my glass of Coca-Cola at the time, and the bouncer sort of leant back across the bar with these two guys, and he's like, "I read you wrong, mate, didn't I?"
Well, yeah, this is again can be a cliche if you look a certain way. There's going to be problems, and they're not the people you have to watch most of the time. As we know.
Indeed,
the quiet chap, the brooding chap in the corner is the one to watch. I've found over the years. So, or lady, of course.
Yeah. If someone wants to learn to play the guitar, be young or old, how are they going to go about it? Because as you said, you picked it up and you couldn't play it straight away. So we've got YouTube, we've got online tutorials. Absolutely. How much you spend on guitar? Which one do you get? Where's your beginner's guitar?
Well, I mean, there's more opportunity than ever now, as you say, with the advent of YouTube, which is like, you know, magical compared to the first thing I did was buy, you know, sort of a book, you know, how to play guitar, and it was how to play, you know, Michael Ruther Broke the Shore or something, you know, and I wanted to play like Wilko Johnson, so it wasn't really happening. Now you can go on YouTube and Wilko Johnson's showing you how to play like Wilko Johnson, you know, so things have changed dramatically, and there's, like you said, there's loads of online tutors, there's plenty of good teachers around. Guitar magazines, you can go and buy a magazine in W.H. Smith and sit there, and it'll start you with your first chords, and there's a CD with it, and you know, it's brilliant. I mean, it's a great thing now. You still probably need the 10,000 hours.
There's no getting away around that.
Yeah, but at least the door is easier to open now.
So what's the ballpark figure? So this day and age, people are quite, you know, if they want a phone, they go and buy an iPhone.
Yeah, sure.
They try and get the best.
Yeah.
what if you're going to learn to play the guitar? What should you be looking to spend? If you're going into a guitar shop, brand new.
Yeah, I mean, again, to put it in perspective, back in the day, if you bought a cheap guitar, you bought exactly that. If you bought, say, a cheap electric guitar, it'd be quite hard to play. The strings would be a long way off the frets, the action of the guitar, as it's called. It would probably not sound very good if you plugged it in. You know, now companies like Epiphone and Squire. Epiphone is kind of a budget Gibson. Squire is a budget Fender. You can buy a guitar for well under £200, say, maybe even under that now. I must admit, I haven't looked at the really beginner ones or the entry level.
I wouldn't have thought a man like yourself plays those kind of guitars.
I've still got a couple of them.
Have you?
Yeah. But I mean, but you can buy a guitar, and you can buy. I mean, there's packs. You can buy a pack with an amplifier and everything in it if you want to play electric guitar.
So you get the whole.
Yeah, you
whole
can
thing.
get budget acoustic guitar. I mean, it's better than ever, and it's you know, very accessible.
So would you say go to a guitar shop or buy it online?
Personally, go to a shop if you can find one these days. I mean, they're fewer and further between, sadly. But again, online, we all know, read the reviews, we all know what we do now. There's plenty of people on YouTube showing you how to use them, you know, and how they work. It's nice to go to a shop though, isn't it? Good fun.
I think so. I'm old school. I want to go to, and then you get to meet people, and maybe you know, and that's how bands were formed back in the old days, weren't they?
Yeah,
hanging out in pubs, clubs, guitar shops, record shops.
Notice board.
Notice board, those old flyers.
Yeah, brilliant. I mean, you know, and there's now online equivalents of that, of course. But there's still notice boards in guitar shops if you go to the right ones. So go to a shop.
Before we wrap up, it's been a great chatting to you as always. What's the craziest thing you've seen on the road without incriminating anyone? So you don't have to name names, you don't have to name the band or anything like that. But if you do, we'd love it. But you don't have to. With the craziest thing that you've seen.
I'm hesitating for obvious reason.
Well, yeah, we've had a few discussions off camera, which are always good. There's a lot of my stories I wouldn't tell on camera.
Well, this is an interesting thing, and this again brings another subject in a way, which is that people tend to think that playing in, you know, rock and roll band is exactly that. You go out, you play for whatever period of time, and then, you know, get in the limo back to the hotel with the girls, and then off you go. It's very rarely, if ever, like that. It's
right.
I mean, I mentioned Keith Richards earlier. There's a great Keith Richards interview where someone says to him something like, "So Keith, sex and drugs and rock and roll then," you know, and he's very witty, Keith Richards. He just said, "The rock and roll's the important bit, mate. The other two might come along if you get that right." And that's a very, very profound statement. But, you know, and there's a cliche everywhere with these things. The craziest thing, I don't think I can do that here, can I?
No, if you don't want to.
No, I don't think. I think we'll leave that to the imagination. Maybe we'll do part 2, and I'll come up with
part 2. All right.
Stories.
Try and think of something safe that you can tell us that won't incriminate anyone, including yourself.
Well, yeah,
and maybe we'll get you back for another one.
Weirdly, I don't mind incriminating myself. I don't think I should incriminate other people.
No.
I've not been too crazy, really. I don't know. Part 2 then.
Part 2. All right. But Leigh, listen, thanks for coming to see us today, and I want to take this opportunity to thank you. You know, when I was early in recovery, you took me under your wing. Oh. You looked after me best you could, and you know, those little chats we had was you know, it's really helped me on my road to recovery.
Oh, well,
and keep a little toe in the rock and roll world.
You love the rock and roll world, as the Clash.
Punk rock.
Yeah, no, that's great. Well, thanks for this. It's been a pleasure.
Thanks very much, Leigh.